Most people over 60 are not losing their legs, they are losing the conversation with them. Strength doesn't disappear because time passes. It fades because the body is slowly taught to move less, trust less, and expect weakness. What if the real problem was never aging, but silence? The nervous system no longer being asked to speak clearly to the muscles that once carried you effortlessly? When that conversation is restored, even gently, even without a gym, the legs respond with a speed and depth that surprises almost everyone, reminding us that strength is not something we manufacture, but something the body remembers when we finally listen again. When we talk about leg strength after 60, most people picture shrinking muscles and imagine that weakness is simply the price of aging, but this view misses the deeper truth revealed by modern biology and careful observation of older bodies. Muscle tissue does not disappear suddenly with age, and strength is not governed by muscle size alone. What truly changes is the communication system that allows muscles to work with clarity and confidence. The nervous system becomes less precise, reaction time slow, and the brain begins to hesitate before sending strong signals to the legs. This hesitation is subtle at first, almost invisible, but over time it reshapes how a person moves, stands, and even thinks about their own body. The legs are uniquely sensitive to this shift because they carry the responsibility of balance. Every step is a negotiation between gravity, joints, muscles, and the nervous system. When someone over 60 feels unsteady, even briefly, the brain records that moment as a threat. Science shows that the brain prioritizes safety above strength, so it responds by reducing force output, stiffening movement patterns, and limiting range of motion. This protective response feels like weakness, but it is actually caution encoded into neural pathways. The muscles are still there, but they are no longer being fully invited to participate. Circulation plays an equally quiet but powerful role. The legs are far from the heart, and with age, blood vessels lose some elasticity. Reduced blood flow means less oxygen, fewer nutrients, and slower waste removal. Muscles that are undernourished do not perform well, no matter how much potential they hold. This is why leg fatigue and heaviness are common complaints, even among people who appear healthy. Strength cannot express itself when circulation is compromised, and circulation does not improve without regular, intentional movement. Then there is confidence, a factor rarely discussed in medical settings, but deeply rooted in neuroscience. Confidence is not an abstract emotion. It is a measurable state of neural readiness. When a person trusts their legs, the brain allows full engagement of muscle fibers. When that trust erodes, the brain restricts output. Studies on fall prevention consistently show that fear of falling is one of the strongest predictors of actual falls. Fear alters posture, shortens stride, and increases muscle co-contraction, making movement inefficient and unstable. In this way, weakness becomes a learned experience rather than a purely physical decline. This is where the concept of leg strength must expand beyond muscle mass and enter the realm of systems biology. Strength emerges from the harmony between nerves, blood flow, joints, and perception. A knee that feels unstable will never allow the quadriceps to fire fully. An ankle that lacks sensory feedback will confuse the brain's balance calculations. Aging often dulls proprioception, the internal sense of where the body is in space. Without clear sensory input from the feet and legs, the brain reduces movement complexity, choosing safety over adaptability. What makes this understanding hopeful is that these systems remain plastic throughout life. Neuroplasticity does not retire at 60. The nervous system continues to rewire itself in response to consistent input. When the legs are asked to move slowly, deliberately, and with awareness, the brain begins to sharpen its signals again. Motor units synchronize more effectively. Balance reflexes regain sensitivity. Confidence slowly returns, not as an idea, but as a felt experience in the body. Chinese movement traditions intuitively recognized this long before modern neuroscience gave it language. By emphasizing grounded posture, controlled weight shifts, and sustained positions, these practices quietly train the nervous system to trust the legs again. They stimulate circulation without overwhelming the joints. They invite the brain to participate fully, moment by moment, instead of relying on automatic, guarded patterns. Over time, this re-education restores strength in a way that brute force training often cannot achieve in older adults. Leg strength after 60, then, is not something to be chased aggressively or measured only by numbers. It is something to be remembered by the body. It returns when the nervous system feels safe, when circulation flows freely, and when confidence replaces hesitation. Muscles respond quickly once these conditions are met, often surprising people who believe their strength was permanently gone. What they are experiencing is not a reversal of age, but a restoration of communication. When we frame leg strength this way, aging no longer feels like a steady decline, but like a shift in requirements. The body asks for patience, consistency, and respect for its internal signals. Strength becomes quieter, more intelligent, and deeply integrated. It is no longer about how much weight the legs can push, but about how clearly they can respond, support, and adapt. In that clarity, movement becomes easier, balance steadier, and daily life less fragile, allowing the legs to once again serve as reliable partners rather than uncertain limits in traditional Chinese movement. The goal is never to overpower the body, but to cooperate with it. And this philosophy aligns closely with what modern science now understands about aging joints and muscles. Rather than isolating a single muscle and pushing it to exhaustion, these movements distribute load slowly across multiple structures. Bones, tendons, ligaments, and muscles all share responsibility, which reduces strain while increasing resilience. For older adults, this matters deeply because tissues recover more slowly with age, and excessive intensity often triggers inflammation instead of adaptation. Joint health sits at the center of this approach. Cartilage does not have its own direct blood supply. It depends on movement to receive nutrients through a process of compression and release. When movements are slow and controlled, joints are gently compressed, then decompressed, allowing synovial fluid to circulate. This fluid delivers oxygen and nutrients while carrying away waste. Fast or jerky motions, by contrast, often bypass this nourishing cycle, placing stress on the joint without providing long-term benefit. Over time, the Chinese emphasis on smooth, deliberate motion creates joints that feel warmer, more fluid, and more trustworthy. Balance is treated not as a skill to be tested, but as a capacity to be cultivated. Many traditional movements require standing on one leg, shifting weight gradually, or holding a posture just long enough to awaken stabilizing muscles. Science shows that these small stabilizers, particularly around the ankles, knees, and hips, play a major role in fall prevention. They are rarely activated during simple walking. When balance is challenged gently and repeatedly, proprioceptive receptors become more sensitive. The brain receives clearer feedback and posture adjusts automatically. Stability emerges not from stiffness, but from responsiveness. Another essential element is slow loading. Muscles grow stronger when they are exposed to tension for sufficient time. While heavy weights achieve this through resistance, slow body weight movement achieves it through duration. Research on time under tension shows that muscles respond well to this form of stimulus, especially in older adults who may not tolerate high loads. Slow loading also protects connective tissue, allowing tendons to adapt without being overstressed. This is why people often feel stronger without soreness when practicing these exercises daily. There is also an often overlooked neurological benefit. Slow movement demands attention. When speed is removed, awareness increases. The brain must track joint position, muscle engagement, and balance in real time. This conscious involvement strengthens neural pathways associated with movement control. Instead of relying on habitual patterns, the nervous system becomes more refined. In aging bodies, this refinement is critical. It allows strength to be expressed efficiently rather than forcefully, reducing the risk of missteps and injury. Chinese movement traditions also respect the rhythm of recovery. Instead of exhausting the body and requiring days of rest, these exercises are designed for daily practice. This frequency matters more than intensity for older adults. Consistent daily movement maintains circulation, keeps joints lubricated, and reinforces neural patterns. The body responds to what it experiences most often. A few minutes every day can reshape how the legs function far more effectively than sporadic, intense workouts. The absence of external equipment is not a limitation but a feature. Without machines or weights, the body must stabilize itself. This activates deep postural muscles that are often neglected in gym settings. The feet grip the ground. The hips learn to align. The spine subtly adjusts to maintain balance. These integrated responses are what make movement in daily life safer and more confident. Strength becomes functional rather than isolated. There is also a psychological dimension that science increasingly recognizes. When exercises feel accessible, people are more likely to continue. Traditional Chinese movements are designed to be inclusive, adaptable, and non-threatening. This lowers mental resistance and reduces fear of pain or failure. A calm emotional state supports better movement patterns. Stress hormones decrease, allowing muscles to relax and contract more effectively. In this way, the mind becomes an ally in physical adaptation rather than an obstacle. What appears simple on the surface is in fact deeply intelligent. These movements reflect an understanding that the body thrives on moderation, consistency, and mindful challenge. They respect the realities of aging while refusing to accept fragility as destiny. By nourishing joints, awakening balance systems, and strengthening muscles through slow, intentional load, they offer a path to strength that feels sustainable and humane. Over time, this approach does more than improve physical capacity. It reshapes the relationship between the individual and their body, replacing frustration with trust and effort with cooperation, allowing strength to grow quietly, steadily, and naturally. The idea that repetition can reshape an aging body often sounds too simple to be true, yet it is one of the most consistent findings in modern physiology. Muscles do not respond primarily to intensity. They respond to signals repeated over time. Each time a movement is performed, the nervous system decides how many muscle fibers to recruit, how quickly they should fire, and how long they should stay engaged. In younger bodies, this process is automatic and efficient. With age, the signal becomes quieter, not because the muscle has failed, but because the brain has learned to conserve effort in the name of safety. Daily low-impact repetition interrupts this pattern. When movements are gentle enough to avoid pain and fatigue, the brain does not trigger protective shutdown. Instead, it allows full participation. Over repeated sessions, motor units begin to fire in a more synchronized way. This synchronization is what people experience as increased strength, even before any visible change in muscle size occurs. The body feels steadier, movements feel more controlled, and effort feels more available rather than forced. This process is deeply connected to neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself in response to experience. For a long time, scientists believed neuroplasticity was limited to childhood. We now know it continues throughout life. The aging brain remains responsive to consistent, meaningful input. When the same movements are practiced daily, neural pathways become reinforced. The brain refines its map of the legs, improving accuracy and timing. This refinement reduces wasted effort and increases effective force output without adding strain. Low-impact repetition also influences muscle fiber behavior. As people age, fast-twitch fibers tend to atrophy more quickly than slow-twitch fibers. However, research shows that these fibers are not permanently lost. They become dormant when they are not called upon. Controlled, repetitive movements that include brief holds or slow transitions can re-engage these fibers. Over time, they regain responsiveness. This contributes to improved power during everyday actions like standing up from a chair or climbing stairs. Another critical adaptation occurs in the connective tissues. Tendons and fascia respond best to gradual, repeated loading. Sudden or excessive force can cause microdamage, especially in older tissue. Daily low-impact movement provides a steady stimulus that encourages collagen remodeling. Tendons become more elastic and better able to transmit force from muscle to bone. This transmission efficiency is a hidden component of strength. Muscles may contract powerfully, but without healthy connective tissue, that power is poorly expressed. Repetition also enhances circulation in a unique way. Muscle contraction acts as a pump, pushing blood and lymphatic fluid through the legs. When this happens regularly, vascular function improves. Capillaries become more responsive, and oxygen delivery becomes more efficient. This improved circulation supports mitochondrial health within muscle cells. Mitochondria generate the energy required for movement, and their function declines with inactivity. Gentle, repeated movement signals the body to maintain these energy systems. supporting endurance and reducing fatigue. There is also a timing effect that matters deeply in older adults. Daily repetition reduces the gap between stimulus and adaptation. Instead of exercising once or twice a week and allowing long periods of inactivity, the body receives a constant reminder to stay capable. This consistency prevents regression and supports cumulative improvement. The nervous system thrives on regularity. Each session reinforces the previous one, building a stable foundation for strength. Psychologically, repetition creates familiarity. Movements that once felt uncertain become known. This familiarity reduces cognitive load. The brain no longer has to work as hard to plan each action, freeing resources for balance and coordination. Fear diminishes as movements become predictable. Confidence grows not through encouragement, but through experience. The body proves to itself that it can move safely, and the mind adjusts its expectations accordingly. Importantly, low-impact repetition respects recovery. High-intensity exercise often triggers delayed soreness, which can discourage continued practice. When soreness occurs, the brain associates movement with discomfort and becomes more guarded. Gentle repetition avoids this trap. It allows the body to adapt without triggering defensive responses. This creates a positive feedback loop where movement feels good, encouraging consistency, which in turn drives adaptation. What makes this approach powerful is not any single exercise, but the daily conversation it creates between brain and body. Each repetition is a signal of intent, a reminder that movement is safe and necessary. Over time, this dialogue reshapes how the body organizes itself. Strength emerges not as a sudden transformation, but as a gradual restoration of capability. The legs begin to respond more fully, posture improves, and balance feels less precarious. This is not because the body has been pushed, but because it has been patiently reminded of what it already knows how to do. Walking is often presented as the ultimate solution for aging bodies, and while it offers undeniable benefits, it is limited in ways that are rarely discussed. Walking is repetitive, linear, and largely passive once the pattern is established. The body settles into a familiar rhythm that requires minimal conscious engagement. Over time, this efficiency becomes a constraint. The same muscles fire in the same sequence, joints move through a narrow range, and balance demands remain low. For maintaining basic mobility, this is sufficient. For rebuilding strength and stability after 60, it is often not enough. Intentional no-gym movement changes this equation by asking the body to work in unfamiliar ways. When a person shifts weight slowly from one leg to the other, holds a semi-bent knee, or rises gradually from a low stance, muscles are forced to stay engaged longer than they would during a normal step. This sustained engagement creates a different kind of stimulus. It strengthens not just the large muscles, but the smaller stabilizers that protect joints and support balance. Walking rarely challenges these muscles because the body avoids instability whenever possible. Another limitation of walking is that it tends to avoid weakness rather than address it. People naturally shorten their stride, favor one leg, or reduce speed to feel safe. These adaptations are subtle but powerful. They reduce load on vulnerable joints, but they also deprive those joints and muscles of the stimulus needed to adapt. Over time, this creates asymmetry. One side becomes dominant, the other more hesitant. Intentional exercises can isolate and gently challenge these weaker patterns, allowing the body to rebalance itself. No gym movement also offers something walking does not: control variability. Exercises can be adjusted to include pauses, direction changes, and shifts in center of gravity. These variations stimulate the nervous system in ways that walking cannot. The brain must continuously update its predictions about balance and force. This keeps neural circuits engaged and adaptable. In contrast, the predictability of walking allows the brain to operate on autopilot, limiting opportunities for neurological growth. There's also the matter of joint angles. Walking rarely takes the knees, hips, or ankles through their full functional range. Many strengthening exercises involve bending and straightening under control, which nourishes joints and maintains mobility. Without this range, joints stiffen and muscles lose length and elasticity. Over time, stiffness contributes to discomfort and increases the risk of injury. Intentional movement reintroduces these ranges in a safe, supported way, helping joints remain resilient. Energy efficiency plays a role as well. Walking is designed to minimize energy expenditure. This is why it can be sustained for long periods. Strength development, however, requires the body to work slightly harder than its comfort zone. No gym exercises create this challenge without overwhelming the system. By slowing down movement and increasing time under tension, they raise metabolic demand just enough to stimulate adaptation. This improves muscle endurance and strength without requiring external resistance. Another overlooked benefit is posture. Walking allows many postural compensations to go unnoticed. Slouched shoulders, forward head position, or uneven hip alignment can persist without immediate consequence. Intentional exercises bring these patterns into awareness. Standing still in a controlled posture reveals imbalances that walking masks. Correcting these imbalances improves force transmission through the legs. When posture aligns, muscles work more efficiently, reducing strain and increasing strength. Mental engagement distinguishes intentional movement from habitual walking. When attention is focused on alignment, breathing, and sensation, the brain becomes an active participant. This enhances motor learning. Studies show that mindful movement improves coordination and reduces fall risk more effectively than automatic exercise. The mind-body connection becomes a tool for adaptation rather than a passive observer. Accessibility is another factor. Weather, terrain, and fatigue can limit walking. No gym exercises can be done indoors, in small spaces, and at any time. This removes barriers to consistency. Daily practice becomes realistic rather than aspirational. Consistency, more than duration, determines long-term benefit. Walking remains valuable, but it is incomplete on its own. It maintains what already exists, but rarely rebuilds what has been lost. Intentional no-gym movement fills this gap. It challenges the body intelligently, engages the nervous system fully, and addresses weakness directly, rather than avoiding it. In doing so, it creates strength that feels stable, adaptable, and integrated into daily life, allowing movement to become not just a habit, but a conscious act of preservation and growth. When physical strength declines, the loss is rarely limited to the body. It quietly alters how a person sees themselves in the world. Movements once taken for granted become calculated. Standing up requires planning. Stairs invite hesitation. Over time, this constant negotiation erodes dignity, not because people become incapable, but because they begin to doubt their own reliability. Science often measures strength in numbers, yet the lived experience of strength is deeply emotional and psychological. Independence is not only the ability to move, but the confidence to do so without fear. Daily movement practices restore this confidence through repetition and reassurance. Each successful motion sends a message to the brain that the body is still capable. This message accumulates. Neural pathways associated with fear gradually quiet, while those linked to coordination and balance strengthen. This shift is measurable in reduced reaction time and improved gait stability, but it is also felt as a subtle ease in daily life. The body no longer feels like an unpredictable object. It becomes a familiar companion again. Independence heavily on leg strength because the legs are involved in nearly every functional task. Rising from a chair, stepping over obstacles, maintaining balance while reaching, all rely on coordinated leg engagement. When these actions feel secure, autonomy expands naturally. People begin to move more, not because they are told to, but because movement feels inviting rather than risky. This increased activity further reinforces physical capacity, creating a positive cycle of engagement and improvement. There is also a social dimension to regained strength. When movement becomes easier, participation increases. People are more likely to leave their homes, visit friends, and engage with their communities. Social interaction has profound effects on mental health and cognitive function. Studies consistently show that mobility is linked to lower rates of depression and cognitive decline. In this way, leg strength becomes a gateway to broader well-being, extending its influence far beyond muscles and joints. Trust in the body is rebuilt through predictability. When exercises are practiced daily, the outcomes become reliable. The body responds in familiar ways. Pain decreases, balance improves, and fatigue becomes manageable. This predictability reduces anxiety. The nervous system shifts from a state of vigilance to one of readiness. Movement no longer triggers alarm. It becomes a source of stability. This internal trust is essential for maintaining independence as the environment becomes less forgiving with age. Compassion plays an important role in this process. Many older adults carry frustration or shame about physical decline. These emotions can inhibit progress by creating tension and resistance. Gentle daily exercises offer a compassionate approach. They meet the body where it is, without judgment or comparison. This emotional safety allows the nervous system to relax, improving muscle coordination and reducing unnecessary stiffness. Healing occurs not through force, but through acceptance and persistence. The restoration of dignity is often most evident in small moments. Standing up without using the hands, walking across a room without scanning for support, carrying groceries without fear. These moments accumulate, reshaping identity. People begin to see themselves not as fragile, but as capable. This shift influences decision-making, encouraging proactive health behaviors and sustained engagement with life. From a scientific perspective, this transformation is supported by changes in brain chemistry. Regular movement increases the release of neurotransmitters associated with mood and motivation. Dopamine reinforces the habit of movement, while serotonin supports emotional balance. These biochemical changes enhance resilience, making it easier to maintain routines and adapt to challenges. The mind and body become aligned in their pursuit of stability. Ultimately, the value of these exercises lies not only in physical outcomes, but in the restoration of agency. When people feel capable of influencing their own well-being, they reclaim a sense of control. This sense of control is a powerful predictor of longevity and quality of life. Strength becomes a means rather than an end, supporting a life that feels self-directed and meaningful. As legs grow stronger, life expands. Movement becomes an expression of confidence rather than caution. The body, once seen as a limitation, becomes a source of assurance. In this quiet return of trust, dignity is restored, independence is preserved, and the relationship with the body is renewed, allowing each step, each rise, and each pause to be taken with calm certainty and renewed respect.